Okay, I've made the bracelet the length that I want to. What I've done now is I was on the stop bead end and I pulled the stop bead off and I threaded on a needle. Now you might notice that my needle is shorter this time. I'm using a sharps needle instead of a beading needle, and that's because I have a shorter length of thread to work with, and sometimes it's very useful to have a shorter needle when you have a shorter length of thread. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down through a few beads, then up one of these center red beads. That's about where I want my clasp to be, my button to be. Then I'm going to take my button, and you can see my button has a shank to it. I'm going to run my needle through the button. Then, just like I was sewing into a shirt, I'm going to go down through the work. There we go, button on. Turn the work over. Now I'm going to go ahead and go up through a button, or excuse me, a bead, because I think it stabilizes the work more. Okay, up through a bead, then back up through the work, through the button shank, back down through the work. Try not to get it caught on the button. Down through the work, turn it over. In this case, I'm going to go down through one of the red beads if I can get it. There we go. Okay, back through the work. Through the button shank. Back down through the work. Now in the interest of time, I'm only going to do it this few times, but normally I would go ahead and do maybe 5 or 6 passes through to go ahead and make sure the button is on securely. Now you see why I like to use a shorter needle, because my thread and needle came just back out. Let's see if I can't go ahead and thread it back real quick. There we go. Now what we're going to do is, you see the thread is coming out through the back, and let's say I've done this 4 or 5 times. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave down several beads. Doesn't really matter how many, just a few. A lot of it will be dependent on how long a thread that you have left. Now I'm going to go ahead and tie a half hitch knot, and to do that I'm just going to run my needle up under a thread, push my needle through, then there's this tiny loop. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a tiny loop that I'm going to run my needle through so it creates like a knot. Okay, run my needle back down through a couple more beads, and then tie another half hitch. Again, I'm just going to pick up a thread, and then with this little loop, put my needle through the loop and pull tight. And I'd probably do this another 2 times, but for right now we're just going to pretend that I've already done it a couple more times. Just going to go ahead and run my needle back down one more time, trying not to get it caught, so I've run it through one more bead, and that's it. I'm just going to go ahead and snip it close to my work, and we're done with this portion. Now the next portion is going to be the loop. You can see how the button is now onto the bracelet, and we just need the loop to go around it to hold it to your wrist. Okay, here we are back at the opposite end, and this is the end where I finished my work. Now, I didn't really show it, but on this end you'll find that the beads just kind of separate. So what I did is I just went down and up through the beads just like I'd be doing a herringbone, and then just pulled them together tight so that it ends up with a nice even edge. Then I went ahead and I wove my needle down through the work, and then I'm coming up to one of the middle beads, and now I'm ready to go ahead and put my loop on. And basically what you end up doing with the loop is that you have to kind of estimate how many beads you're going to need to go around the button. I've already measured mine out, so I know how many, but let me go ahead and string the beads on, and then I'll come back and show you exactly how you can estimate. Okay, I've threaded all my beads onto my needle and thread, and what I'm going to do to guesstimate how many beads I might need is I'm going to loop it around and hold it, and then I'm going to take the end with the button and just see if I can pass the button through. I can, so that's what I'll need. Now if for some reason your button's larger or smaller, then you'll just need to add or subtract some buttons here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down through this bead, pull the loop tight, back up through the first bead. So now I'm back to the start of my loop, and I'm just going to go ahead and go up through all these beads. Now this is reinforcing the loop, and the reason you want to do this is because now I'm using Fireline, and Fireline is really durable, but that doesn't mean that it can't be cut or that it can't be broken. So the more threads that you have going through, the less of a chance, I should say, that you have that it's going to break on you. And after putting in all the time and effort you have on your bracelet, you don't want it to break on you. Now normally what I do is I'll reinforce this loop, maybe another couple of times. A lot of it really depends on what size your beads are and what their holes are like, but usually I will go through at least 3 times. Now I'm just going to go ahead and finish off this, so I'm going back down through the work, and as you can probably guess, I'm going to go ahead and do a half hitch knot, down through another couple of beads. Now normally I would probably do about 3 or 4 half hitch knots, but in the interest of time I'm just going to go ahead and do 2. So pull it tight, then take it down through the next bead. There we go. And then we're just going to snip it close to the work. There you go. You have one herringbone bracelet ready to wear. So there you go. Now one thing about herringbone is it's very versatile. You can do a lot with it. You can see that I just made it like a checkerboard with size 8 beads, but you can make it with, of course, size 11 beads, size 6 beads. You can mix bead sizes. You can give it a whole different look. So herringbone is really a fun stitch, and this is your bracelet that you've made, a herringbone with a checkerboard pattern. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope that you'll come back and view more of my how-to videos. I'm Gail Nettles with Beaded Jewelry Diva, and happy to have you here. Bye.